Okay, starting late has chosen you.
All right, what I'm gonna do while I'm getting my technology going is hand you guys out some music. So here's what, so there's enough copies, so just take one of each of these. This one, the music is stapled and on top is the stack of the translation. So, oh, hello, fancy meeting you here. So just take one of these.
Oh, that's central.
Well, yeah.
All right, how many?
This should be stapled together, is it not?
I see no.
Oh, you know, it's my master copy was on top.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, if there's an unstapled one, it was my master, sorry. These copies brought to you by the Nielsen Company. Where I work. There you go. Bang. So there's the translations on top and then the stapled copies behind, so just take one of each of those things. Sorry, there was a little bit, it's possible that this happened a little at the last minute, the copying. Just theoretically speaking, may have been.
So one page and one Osono is what I.
Yes.
Excellent.
What the front is the
One from
translation of
front, one from the
Osono.
back.
Let's get some Bluetooth in the house. This is the magic part, right? Find each other, find each other. You should have 3 pieces of music, and one of them has a separate translation piece. Is what you should have. And I don't know if we'll do all 3, but we will see what makes sense. Come on, are you connected? Come on. Pay attention to me. Hey, I found it. All right. Everyone got what they need? Got copies of the things? Okay. So you don't have to look at them yet. No. All right. Is it time? I don't have any idea. Oh, what? Phone it. And
Here, have Osono.
oh, extra copies?
I got you a set because it was
Thank you. We'll put, you have these extras here? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, here they are. And more people come, will you be the thing with the thing? Hey, welcome. I think we'll give ourselves like 2 more minutes for people to move around. Are you collating? So nice.
Don't mind me, I don't know what I'm doing.
Me neither, so we're in good hands. Here,
I was like near between
You
two
don't know
classes,
what
my
he's
husband
doing, he
taking
doesn't know what
the
you're
other
doing.
class.
I probably have all of this.
And recording the other class.
Yeah, I remember this song.
Yeah, right? I picked pieces I knew.
Oh, I.
So sad.
okay.
So sad. So sad.
Yeah. It's very
All right,
sad.
I'm gonna make you guys do this.
Is it,
No, I won't.
Picture.
Here's one.
It's just about like how he
See that?
can't sleep. Yeah.
See that? See that? See that?
Oh,
Sort of.
sort of.
We have a sono. Gianetta la ver. Is there another weep? So much weeping.
Sitting or over
I think I'm gonna be near there,
Near
near
there.
that podium,
Yeah,
and mostly
okay.
probably standing, because I'm probably too
Okie dokie.
pathetic.
Do you have the other?
I do not. Yes.
Don't worry, I'm just fiddling.
Okay,
I don't know, Arbor,
First, not everyone can make it.
No, take one. There's some stacks here. What you're going to do, everyone should have Osono, a single page of translation of Osono, which I didn't staple. Weep, weep,
Yeah.
and La Ver. What do you got there?
Oh, I need
I
a
will-
Here.
There are so many, thank you.
spare, but I need the other 2.
Excuse me? Thank you.
And then there's
Love
two
it.
translations.
Yep, one moment, please.
How many translations are there?
One.
Just one.
The other one is stapled in, the one that's not in English. Does everyone have all of the things? Hi, everyone.
Looks like there's another spare chair over there.
So I'm Gianetta. I'm from Ayrton, Chicagoland. And some of you know me. I run a singing group called the Pippins and have done so for 18 years. Amazing. But what I wanted to talk about today is one of the things we work on a lot is how do you make this music approachable and listenable by an audience that may or may not be educated in the music you're singing. So it's always a challenge with our audiences. This, where we are today, is probably the least challenging audience because everyone's here because they already love or perform or are interested in early music. In an SCA context and in a demo context, most of the places where we perform, you may have an audience that has never heard this kind of music before or has heard 3 Christmas songs and that's it. Also, most people speak 1 or 2 languages and not all the ones that you would like to sing in. So you're often working and singing in a language, you're singing something that your audience can't immediately understand. But I'm going to say this, I started with that as the idea of this class, but when I looked at what I wanted to show, I realized the same thing is true for our pieces in English. As soon as we get into polyphony, as soon as we get into something where you have sustained notes, you may start to lose being able to understand every word of the text unless you're doing a really great job enunciating, which might not serve the music. So you want to understand emotionally what you want to convey with the music so that your audience has something to hold on to when they're listening. Even if they can't understand what the words are, they can get a sense of what you're trying to say. So let me ask you, how many of you have done any acting? Few? So one of the things when you study, when you have speech to do, a monologue, is you take the text and you say, what am I trying to convey with this speech? And then you dissect it piece by piece and say, what does this phrase mean? How do I want to perform this phrase? How am I going to, what's the emotion behind this little piece of it? And you construct a whole progression, right, of what you want to come through. So that it's not just like ma, 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 right? If you've ever done Shakespeare, you use the rhythm of the piece, the iams. So you say, oh, if you put the emphasis on the first syllable, that must be the important word, right? So you have that, what you're doing is you're studying the text for clues as to how you might create an evocative arc in what you're saying. And then you're also putting your own layer of meaning on top of it and making choices about how you want to perform each part of it. And we can do the same thing with a lot of Renaissance music. And when I say Renaissance music, here's what I mostly think this applies to. Mostly, I think it applies to the 16th century madrigals, okay? Now, and not all of them. So I'm going to start, you guys, with a counterexample of what we're not going to be doing. Cracks me up. Hold on. So here's a song where you can do a little of this, but not much. Then I have to find it, so hold on a second. Aha! All right.
Somewhere in this song.
Oriana Carroll. Again, let's sing it again. Beautiful piece. Etc. All right, this is a beautiful piece of music, but the point of this music is not the lyric. Right? There's a little bit, hooray for Elizabeth, right? Fair Oriana, blah, 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 blah. There are shepherds, they are mostly fa la line. Okay, so there are some places where you absolutely make choices when you perform that about what you want to do dynamically, what you want to do expressively, but the text is not giving you a lot of help on it, okay? So it's a different kind of music. We're going to be looking at different things. It's not true of all music, but there are principles you can use in all music. We're going to give some of the easiest examples to to look at, most of which come from sonnets. So a lot of what they're doing in this time is taking poetry and setting music to it. And they're lining up the music with the meaning of the text to enhance the beauty of the sonnet. So we're going to look at probably 3 pieces today. But I'm going to give you some guidelines first. You get a piece of music. Now, sometimes in my group we perform songs that I already know, which is a help. Sometimes we're starting with something no one's ever heard before. We go and listen to recordings, whatever, but you may not have a full decision about what it means and how you want to do it until you've been working on it for a while and you start to hear things. One of my jobs as a director is to be listening at the same time we're getting better at the music and saying, oh, look at that, those guys have a little duet right there. Oh, we should do something with that. You know, oh, it's a place where the music comes together. I'm not a good enough sight singer to be able to see that just from the text. So we're cheating a little today, we're going to use professional recordings, but it's something you can do as you're working on the piece. You start to hunt for interesting things to highlight. But the first thing you want to start with is, what does it mean? What do the words mean? Okay? So if it's in English, you have 80% of the puzzle, but it's not modern, I mean, it's modern English, right? But it's not 20th century or 21st century English. So you may have some things you don't know. So your first job is find out what the words mean. If it's not in English and you're a native English speaker and you don't speak the language, go look up a translation and go look up multiple translations. Because one of the things that happens is if the music has been translated for performance into English, it does not match up anymore with the original intent. Because they'll want to rhyme in English where it didn't necessarily work, you know, all that kind of deal. So they've changed the meaning. So you want to get as close to an original translation as you can, or let me say a literal translation, right? Word for word. The Oxford Book of Italian Madrigals is really great because they don't worry about their translation sentences making grammatical sense in English. They give it to you word by word. So it looks like weird poetry because it's Italian word order, right? So that's handy. So the first thing is, what does it mean? Okay, and then it's not just what's the overall story of it, but where do those words happen? So if I know what the sentence means, that's great, but I need to know which are the important words in that sentence and what those words mean, okay? Okay, did you get them?
No.
Okay. So then the second thing that you can start before you learn the piece and as you go through it is, what is the story of this song? Okay, there's a surface text, what is the story of it? And then there may be underlying layers of meaning in the text, particularly in the not sad songs. There's a lot of sexy time, you know, it's not, I can't think of what to call it, but, you know, so it's like, it looks like it's a song about a swan, but really you're talking about, you know, seducing someone. So knowing both layers of meaning. And then the other part is you get to pick what is the emotional arc you want to tell. So there is a theatrical and a dramatic aspect to this of saying, who are you singing this song? And if you're a group singing a song, the group has to decide on the persona of the speaker of the song, right? It's in many voices, but it's one character. So what are they doing? Are they sitting in the garden, strumming a lute and saying, hey baby? And where are the choices around that? You know, so there's a lot to do to pick a character. The more you don't have to do this, but the more you do it, the more the audience is going to get it when you sing it, because you are acting and not just singing. Now, in the Pippin, sometimes what we do is we make a choice like that, and then we do it, and we do it over the top, and then our intonation goes to heck, right? So you start to add acting in, and you start to lose musicality, but it's good to experiment, and then you can back it off, okay? But you make that choice. We did a piece called La Bamba, which is an ensalada. Super long, lots of pieces. We thought, no one's ever going to like this, right? Like, we're going to have to put lots of small, interesting pieces into our set. When we performed it at Penzig, it's the one that got the most money because we were acting during it, and people could understand something about what we were doing besides, that's pretty music. So, okay. So let's start. This will take time. Okay. So that's all my preamble. Any questions before we get into the meat? All right, good. All right, so let's take a look, since we're talking about what the words mean, take a look at that single page which has number 18, O sono, on it. Okay, it looks like this. It's about 3/4 of the way down. This is, I don't know if this is a Petrarch sonnet or not, but it's for sure came from a sonnet. All right, I'll read it out. Oh sleep, oh the quiet, damp and shadowy night's peaceful child. So this is the part where the words are flipped around. So, oh of mortals afflicted, the comfort and sweet oblivion, the comfort of ills. All right, so it's like flipped around. So it's saying if you're afflicted, the sleep is the comfort of grave ills. Whence is life harsh and tedious? Help my heart that now is waning and rest has not. Okay, so you can see the flip of the line break. So I can't rest, my heart is fading. These limbs weary and frail lift up. Envelop me, O sleep, and your wings dark over me spread and place. Okay, that's the first verse. So you got it? Insomnia, right? Basic line is insomnia, but also metaphorically, the sleep of death, right? So you can do both. Envelop me, O sleep, and your wings, oh, here it is. Where is the silence which the day flees and the light? And the gentle dreams which with no certain trace attend you usually. This is a little bit of weird grammar, but alas, in vain I call you, and these gloomy and icy shadows in vain I entice. O plumes with harshness filled, O nights painful and hard. Okay, so if I was performing this as a speech, I'd have a lot of clues as to what's going on. There's a couple things to look at in the text. Things that line up with musical things, like crying out. Alas is an important word always in music, right? If you say, I call you, that's a musical thing. It's a thing you do with your voice, right? So it's important text to notice when you go into the music. Where are you calling? Better do something that sounds like calling when you get there, right? Also things that give you volume hints. Quiet, words like quiet. Words like waning, okay? Another one, lift up. That seems like it might have some potential, right? That you're gonna lift up the music. So this is the first thing, is figure out what you're saying. All right. Now, so you can start with the text, and then you can go to the music and see what the music has to offer you. Let's play this piece. You guys know this piece? I'll play it for you. It's a little long. And if you want to read along, you're very welcome to do so. resolution, does it?
No.
It gets there. Not a happy ending, right?
No rush.
Okay. So what I thought I'd do, so first tell me what you heard. Any observations as you were going through? Anything about how to perform it?
The rhythmic sense of this performing group is quite variable compared to the music that's on the page.
Right, a lot of interpretation in terms of speed and rhythm, right? And there's a lot of choice points there. In this particular piece, it's not always, well, mostly true, right? You get to pick.
Very thorough.
Mm-hmm. And this is a pretty good performance. You can hear pretty good emotion of the text. All right. What I'd like to do is we're going to do sort of, I'm going to highlight a few spots in the text where I notice things that you can hang on to. And by doing that, I'm going to give you some examples of what you should look for. All right. So one of the things when you're dealing with polyphony of this period is a lot of times the voices are not lining up, right? You've got cascading entrances, people doing different things. It is notable where they do line up. It is also the place where an audience could understand what you are saying. So you can guess the composer's intent is that that's an important part of the text where he really wants you to hear what he's saying. Okay? So take a look at measure 22. That's the second part of the first page, second half. Okay, so cori al coro mai. This song is not quite as disorganized at the beginning as some, but this is a place where all of a sudden all the voices are in the same rhythm. So this is, isn't this help my heart?
Yeah.
Right? Help my heart is the first part where you have an opportunity for your whole group to, dig in a little and give it meaning. So that's one of the things to scan for in your text are where are the meaningful places, especially at the beginning and ends of sections, where everyone lines up together. Okay? Oh, it's another great one. Measure 41. Next. It's on this back side. Okay. Elali tue brune. Right? So you have this whole section entreating. Ame ten volal sono. So there's this whole section, which we can listen to again, where there's staggered entrances and a sort of suspended chord, and then it resolves. Everyone's singing the same rhythm together, Elali tue brune, which is and cover me with your dark wings. So it's sort of like it gives that sort of resolution and sweetness. That's another one to look at. All right. So that's one thing to look at. In this particular piece, the cascading entrances are not as interesting because mostly what you have is the three lower voices together and then the soprano sort of filling in like a descant. But we'll look at another one. All right, let's look at ascending phrases. So when you're performing a piece, the music will mostly tell you where there's a crescendo, decrescendo, right? Just because of how you breathe and how you need to sing a phrase and how you can reach. It's a high note, probably going to be louder, right? Unless you're doing something super fancy. So, but there's also, this is a place to look when we were looking in the text for words that give you clues. Soleva is a really important one in this piece. Measure 33. So we're jumping around a little. Okay, so this phrase, e queste membra stanche frali, this is, and these heavy and frail limbs lift up, solleva. Every line goes up. Again, the rhythm is lining up. So this is a place where you also want your voices. When we perform it, we do a decrescendo on this. So you sort of, there's two approaches, right? Be louder, make it more important, or make it notable by how quiet and still you make it. So you get to pick. We went quiet on this one because we wanted it to float up. There's something we do in the pippins, which I don't know how to describe it. It's not louder or softer, it's like towards the ceiling of the church. You know what I mean? You can get churchier about it, and there's a way that the voices become more angelic. It's more of a quality than it is a volume thing. It's one of the things we try to do. All right, here's another one. Look for repeated phrases They work both ways, right? Sometimes it's just more music. In the first song we listened to, the Shepherd's Queen, they only got 4 lines, right? And they have a long piece to fill out, so you repeat them a lot. It's about the music. But sometimes in these pieces, the phrases are repeated to emphasize the meaning. So let's look at measure 62. Okay. It's the end of the section. We're saying, this is after the where is the silence, I think. Yeah, where is the silence, blah, blah, blah. All right. Lasso, alas, right? Already a cry. The music is written in long notes, have a long time to do it. First one starts, soprano alone, next 2 lines enter. Then it is repeated with all 4 voices, the bass gives the ground, right? And you heard in this performance, they went, so, and then, la, so, right? It's like, you know, so you can think of your character, not that kind of la, so. Thank you very much. So if you think about your monologue, your Shakespearean monologue, la, so, right? La, so. So you can choose that, so the repeat there is meaningful because they're supposed to be performed differently, in my humble opinion. Okay, oh, and what you say after that, in vain I call you. Right? So you've got in van chi chiamo. Okay, so that's another thing you can scan for is, and you get to figure it out, right? They're not always going to be a winner, right? Sometimes they're just repeated to do a parenthetical phrase. Sometimes they weren't even in the original music. There was just, you know, the composer wrote whatever, right? And so put notes and editorial. They put this repeat of the text in. That's sort of the standard sing it loud the first time, sing it quiet the second time kind of thing, but in these cases you can pull some textual meaning there. Oh, and Robin, you mentioned the rhythmic changes. So there's the way they choose the speed of each section, but then even at the same speed, you can notice places where it's changing, like in this notation, from a lot of half notes to a whole bunch of quarter and eighth notes. So there can be a mood or an emotional change where all of a sudden you've got a bazillion notes before you have these long sustained chords. One of those, oh, it's my favorite part of the whole piece. Measure 47, it's O vel silencio. Okay. So what's going on in this one? I'm making you guys work for it, right? Okay. Part 2, it says, that seems important. So there is already notated editorially the tempo change here. Well, it's a whole to dotted whole, but okay, here's what we've got going on. O vel silencio, note, it's a little duet. Another thing to note in your music is where do you have parts doing duets with each other, as opposed to just the wall of sound, right? So it starts with, look at all those long notes. O vel silencio. Then, what happens? Quel diffugge lume, that flees from the light. Okay, so you've also got an action word, fugge, right? And look what happens. Exciting runs for everyone. Everyone wins. It's like Oprah, right? And you get a run, and you get a run, and you get a run. And so we can listen to that moment in the piece too, because you create silence, and then you run away from it. So you can reflect that in how you sing it. Do you guys want to hear that one? Let's see if I can find it. I picked a long piece, unfortunately, but it gives a lot to work with. Let's see what I got for you. Do you want to just hear the whole thing? Or let's see if I can get to that part. See how this first page, most things are lined up except the soprano's doing something different a little. The other thing we haven't talked about too much is where accidentals happen. So where you're modulating. Here's that silk core. Comfort me. you repeat it. Right? Wow. Here we go. Heavy limbs. This is a place where there's cast. It's gonna flee from the light. Yeah? You wanna hear the whole thing or should I stop? You wanna hear the last one? Another fast section, see that? All disorganized. In this music, there's a lot of these long parts where they're lined up and then they break into sort of a faster polyphonic mode. Back. So that's a map of the whole thing. I mean, you can find more moments like I was showing you, but understanding how what you're saying lines up with what's happening in the music, it's just going to give your audience something to react to. And also there's something about what's happening with your face when you're performing. Okay, so there is a continuum of nothing, which everyone will think you are grumpy when you are singing, to overacting. And it is important to choose on the piece. Comic pieces, go for it. Audience will love it if you are acting out the song. A piece like this, you are mostly concentrating on singing. This is not easy to sing, okay? But knowing what the emotional content is and choosing that sort of emotional track through the piece will help, it will inform your face as you're singing, and it will give the audience, because they're not just listening, they're also looking at it. All right, that's piece one. Comments, questions? Let's do some in English. I only do sad songs. Oh well, too bad for you. Actually, we can do a shorty. I'm changing my mind, sorry. Let's look at Lover. This is a cute one. Not sad. How about not sad? Ooh. Give you guys a break. All right. All right, if you go to the last page, here's the translation. This is a Petrarch poem. A sonnet, I think. Is it a sonnet? Okay, it's number 28. So it's towards the bottom of this page. Would anyone like to do a dramatic reading? Come on, you guys are good. Towards dawn, when so gently the breeze in spring is wont to move the flowers, and the little birds begin their songs so sweetly, the thoughts within my soul move me, I feel, towards she who has them all in her power. That I needs must return to my music. Okay, a very musical text, right? We got birds singing, we've got movement, moving the flowers. We've got, I'm writing my music, right? I must return to music, yeah. Yes.
The dawn.
Dawn, ah, yes, the sun is rising. Sounds like a good synesthetic moment, right? All right,
Yes.
it's a short piece. All right, so this time, I haven't done the measurement, let's look at it for a minute before we listen to it, okay? And let's just do the translation on the fly, okay? La verdurora, right? Don, right? Dolce, sweet, right? The sweet sunrise, over and over, okay? Al tempo novo so. Take a look what's happening in the music, right? All of a sudden we've got everyone lined up, and we've got shorter notes. Al tempo novo so. That's
Springtime.
springtime, right? So the tempo, the time of spring. Muovere i fiori. Notice there's a little bit of time change happening in here too. Moves the flowers, right? E gli augelletti cominciano, then the little birds begin their versi, their songs, right? I'm a big fan, I studied a Romance language in school, so I'm a big fan of cognates. It's one of your best tip-offs. If you have someone, you get a good clue at German, because if you're a native English speaker, you've got a lot of line-up there. And if you have someone in your group who studied a Romance language, you can get a lot of the cognates for French, Spanish, Italian, right? Helps, right? Okay. Birds are still singing through measure 19. This beauty, see, or this sweetness, si dolcemente, makes me think, isn't it dentro? Alma is soul, right?
Yeah.
And alma. Move mi sento, repeated, moves me, right? Isn't that moves my feelings? Moves me, I feel, yeah. Move mi sento, to she who has them on her power. Forza, right? Power. So you get some anchors if you're not a native speaker of this language. Che ritornar. Now, check this out. Now listen to it. Che ritornar, it's a place where the parts are cascading. All of those even quarter notes, right? Look at that. Che ritornar. I'm returning. Yeah? So you've got the music doing what the text is saying. Alle mie note, to my music. And then you do it again. Che ritornar. Okay, so it's sort of a musical joke, or it just is meaningful, that it's the returning, right? Does it twice. All right, let's do this one. Palestrina, by the way. Our favorite. Sunrise. Springtime. Moves the flowers. Birds are singing. Check it out. All sorts of little runs, nightingales. Comes together. It's a little faster. Let's do it again. Short and sweet, right? Same principles in a non-sad setting. Right? But you can tell, so there's a thing, not all texts and not all songs are this rich with this kind of interpretation. This is a particular set, the Italians are doing it a lot, and the English are doing it a little, where they're taking beautiful poetry and interpreting it through music, okay? So this gives you your target-rich environment for this class. But you can do it with any piece, even the Fa La La Oriana carols, you can choose your moments, right? You can decide that, they're talking about flowers, you want to sing it, like sunrise, whatever. Go for it. All right, You guys got room for one more? Okay, the brains are not quite full. Okay, let's do one in English. I'll tell you a story about this song. If I have a copy in my hand. I'm weeping. Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, she's sung it. This song I performed in Our Lady's Magical Singers, those many years ago. And we learned the piece. I mean, we didn't really know what it was about. And then on the stage in our first performance, she told us the story behind this song. And I was like in tears. And I'm supposed to start singing, you know, like an alto line. And I'm like tears streaming down my face. So it's good to get your meaning down before the moment of performance. Here's the song, the story of this song. So, you know, I said, read the text, and then also know the backstory. This one is the story of Hero and Leander. So Hero is a Vestal virgin. She lives on an island in a tower. Her lover, Leander, crosses the Hellespont by swimming every night. She puts a light in her tower. Terrible. And he swims towards the light, and one night she's delayed, she can't light the light, and he drowns in the Hellespont. And this song is sung at the moment she's about to throw herself from the tower and join him in heaven. So you're just like, oh my God. So it's laden with meaning. So let's hear it. Again, this is a little long, so I appreciate your... So follow along, and all these things we've been talking about, places where it lines up, places where it seems like the tempo changes, listen for that. Gets me every time. Such a sad. All right. Where are you? Oh, you guys, I don't have a recording when I... One moment, please. Feel free to scan the text while I find something for you. I found it last night. Problem with this is you get like 4,000 weak O-line eyes in the search results. I know, I thought I did.
There's no O in this, there's just weak mine eyes.
Indeed, this is a 5-part. This is a different song, will be. Here we go. Let's try Oxford Camerata. That seems like a good bet, doesn't it?
Oh, Summer League, absolutely.
Yeah, let's try that one. Here we go. why is there a repeat? In the acting version of this, why is that whole section repeated? So it goes from Aini, right? A cruel fortune. Now Leander, to die I fear not. Yeah? Then I hope when I am dead. Okay, so here's an important cultural, like a dramaturgy part of this. Why does she hope when she is dead that she'll meet him in Elysian plain? She's Greek. The writer of this is Christian, Catholic, probably. I can't remember if Willie's Catholic or Protestant, but it's close, right, at the time. Suicide. Not a guarantee you'll be meeting in Elysian plains, right? So there's a whole nother moment to this of like, so here's my reading of this. First time, she's psyching herself up, right, to throw herself from the tower. And the way she's comforting herself is by saying, when I'm there, I will meet my love in heaven. But she loses her nerve, right? She has to sing it again. It's just like, so then she goes back, right? So that whole first time, she's getting, and then she goes back, Aini, again. And so it's like a moment of thoughts, is how I read it. You get to pick when you're doing it, but this is why it's a monologue, right? Even though you're a group singing it. And so then she goes through. So when you sing this, when you choose it, you have to look at dynamically, what's happening. Where do you want the crescendos in that repeat? Is there a difference in the way you sing it the second time from the third one? Not just loud, soft, like our standard loud, softs repeat, right? But how do you want to pick what's happening emotionally? Is she determined? Is she scared? Is she mournful? You get to pick each moment in that second half. What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that, I think the second time around, like 70, 71, the written directions are diminuendo.
Right.
But they were
Swelling it up.
They were emphasizing phrases. The tenor really jumped out.
Right.
And which is
Hooray.
perhaps they quieted down the first time, but they were like, all right, let's do this.
Let's get exactly right. Yeah.
And
That would be a really morbid version if you just trail the bottom note off.
something which I'm not sure whether it was I was listening differently or if I heard a difference, but this is less of an interpretive thing with the text than just how to make it not sound like you just hit rewind and hit repeat.
It's an important
They
question.
weighted the parts differently. I heard a lot
Yes.
less of the sopranos, a lot more of the lower voices on the second repeat.
Yeah, that's another good idea to look at how you want to do it. Yeah.
There's groups of threes happening in this.
Say more.
Death do thy worst,
Oh,
I
yeah.
carry not, death do thy worst, I carry not, death do thy worst,
Ah.
I carry not. And then it's followed there by I hope, which is 2.
Right.
Elysian plain, Elysian plain, Elysian plain, and then to
You
meet,
skipped over
to
the
meet,
when
to
I am
meet.
dead.
Right.
And everyone comes
Which
together.
does not repeat, and it's everybody together, and it's like dead stop, wham!
Yep.
Right,
Oh
right.
yeah, and then we keep going.
Right.
But it's,
Right.
so it's counting down.
A moment,
from when I am dead.
a moment for pausing for thought, perhaps.
Yeah.
That's the
So
only
yeah, it's the
moment.
counting down the threes, the twos, and then there's
Right.
the one.
Yeah.
Although, one thing I would note, if I am understanding and remember correctly what the parentheses mean, I think the parentheses are where the editor
Yeah.
said, there's gotta be some lyrics to go with all these notes they
That's,
gave.
especially if it's in one of the supporting lines, it's filling notes.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a Christian composer, you said, right?
For sure.
Okay, so in as a Christian composer,
Could be threes.
there's
Yeah.
a reason
There's
why.
meaning.
I think that's very possible, and in particular, I want to highlight, that's a really good idea to look at. And these are cascades that are emphasizing the text. Sometimes it's to create the polyphony and to create that kind of, in this case, you can hear it, it's like she's repeating
The
herself,
first
right? So you
time
hear, I hope,
isn't- Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And you hear, what's that, what was the one,
it's
first
almost
one you said?
unsure the first time, and then it's like, I really do hope. And that's why I said there's a 2 there, because it
Yep.
changes the thought process.
I
Not to
can't
say
know.
that when I'm dead is not important, but then it goes back to the 3, because it's heaven, and the hope is the heaven.
Right,
That's why I
Good.
said,
that's good.
that's why I went over the dead, because the hope
And you guys heard the I mean language,
Yes.
and then cruel fortune, right? They line up and they sing it together to support
The
it.
emotional thought.
Yeah, so it's easier on English, isn't it, to see it, but also, so I didn't do a handout, you guys are welcome to my notes on this, but, so let me just say, in closing, a couple, what you're scanning for, right? So let's do a little wrap up. One, what does it mean, right? What do the words mean?
Understand the words.
What is the larger meaning of the song? What is the dramaturgy of it, right? What's the background of this song? And what do you want to make it mean? Treat it like a monologue, okay? Figure out, if it's not in English, what are the meaningful words that you want to pay attention to. Use cognate skills, anything you've got to figure it out. Okay, here's what to look for in the text. Where do the voices line up? In this music in particular, that's important. Or, where are there cascading entrances where it's important, right? Sometimes it's for the music and sometimes it's for the lyric. The other thing we didn't talk too much about is where are there duets between the parts? You know, where it's not the whole thing, or solo entrances. There was a couple in here. The alto just goes I at the end of the phrase, you know, so there's good stuff in there. Where does the text line up with the music meaningfully, like to lift? Look for words that are musical clues, right? To lift, silence, calling, all of these words that you can see how, like soleva in Osono, right? To lift up, okay? We talked about repetition of phrases, right? What's happening there? Repetition of whole movements, why? The other thing we didn't talk too much about is where it's modulating. You heard it in this, it went from like, so the simple version went from a minor to a major and back again. Happy, sad, I'm using very basic words, but you know what I'm saying? Places you might note where there's accidentals, where there's music where it's pulling off of the main key that it's in. Something's going on, right? Rhythmic changes we did. And I think that's it. That's it. That's it. Got it. All right, that's it, guys. Thanks for listening.